So today we have a guest. I'm very fortunate to have a relatively new reporter named Kandice. And welcome, Kandice. Thanks for joining me.
Hi.
Kandice heard about court reporting on the radio, toured a court reporting school, started it, and promptly fell totally and unconditionally in love.
This is true.
When did you start? When was that you heard about court reporting on the radio?
So it had to have been when I was in junior college. I believe it was like my second year. So I was about 19. It would have been in 2011, I believe. No, 2009, I think. Maybe 2010, somewhere around there.
And so you heard this, and did they have an open house at the court? Was there a court reporting school near you? That's the first question.
No, it was near. It was about an hour away. So I live in Marysville, which is like kind of small outside of Sacramento. So it was about an hour away from Sacramento, and that's where the court reporting school was, Bryan College, an on-campus one. So got to tour that.
And so you started there in person.
Right. 4 days a week. We started out with legal technology or terminology. And I think our first like 6 to 8 weeks was that. And then we jumped right into theory. And me and my sister actually went together, and we just loved it. We would feed off each other, and it was a really great thing. I loved theory, and yeah, that part was all great. And then the school, they had a, what would you call it? Like an online version that you could attend as well, which is what my sister started doing because she had moved away. So I stayed because I'm much better on campus. I was pretty young, so it's hard to hold yourself accountable at those times, but.
And then you ended up having to go online because of an accident you had. And how was that transition for you?
It was tough. It was very tough. Yeah, like you said, I was driving to Sacramento from Humboldt County, which is about 5 hours, once a week. And I still wanted to do that because it's still, I got to be on campus still. And then I got in a car wreck and totaled my car. So I switched to their online, and then I really struggled after that because I went from, doing about, I want to say 24 hours of in-person or Zoom with my teacher to about like 4. And so it was tough because I wasn't good at holding myself accountable for practicing and, doing the 6 to whatever hours were required. So that it was tough. And it took me a while to get my stuff together.
So you pretty much flew through for a while, but then you said you got stuck at 180. What do you think got you stuck at 180?
I think it was a combination of, it's a jump in speed, which they all are, but 180 you really start to, that's people's speaking patterns almost. So I think it was a combination of transferring online to not practicing enough to, it was getting more to be the big leagues, if you will. And so part of me was probably scared, scared to fail or, scared to do any of those things. So it was a mental block too, I'd say, because I was very close for a long time, but I spent over a year in 180 at least. And I know that's, I got stuck in probably 140, but for like, 4 months, maybe. It was nothing like crazy. So I think it's pretty normal to get stuck in a speed, but.
What did you do and what helps you get past that mental block?
Having a routine. So after I decided that I needed to get it together, I laid out a routine that I would try and do every day. And didn't really matter how, it matters how long you're on your machine, but if you touch your machine at least for, a half hour a day, your fingers are always going to be used to that, and they're going to build on top of that every single day. So it was, for me, it was being on my machine. And I was working at the time, but if I would just do 30 minutes or 20 minutes, or if I'd just run through my briefs, it helped motivate me for the next day. Like, okay, I need to add on to this tomorrow. And that was a big motivator for me. So writing out a routine that I could see every day, put it on my wall, look at it, and I used to have my machine in my spare bedroom.
Mm.
And that helped me not see it all the time. And so I moved everything out into my living room because I'm out there all the time and we don't have a lot of guests over, and we had a huge front living room. So that was a big thing for me too, because I'd see it, I'd feel guilty, and I'd be like, okay, let me, I'm right here, I'm not doing anything, let me just, go do that. So that was huge.
What were your favorite things in court reporting school, and your least favorite thing about court reporting school?
Favorite things, I would say learning the theory, just because it's so interesting. And there's nothing like it. People think they know what court reporting is, but you really don't know until you learn the theory and all that. So I would say theory was my favorite part, and my least favorite part was probably that 180 speed. Probably because I really enjoyed speed when I was on campus, because you have other people to bounce your energy off of, and, kind of push each other. So, yeah, I would say the online and speed, but some people are great at online. So,
We're going to get to the CSR test in a minute, but first I wanted to ask you, once you did get your CSR license, how long did it take you to start getting work?
Oh, immediately, right away. I got my number. I think I had just gotten my number online, like one of my colleagues, because they had been rooting for me for a while. It's a pretty small community up here. So she had looked before I even knew that, it was posted. And I think I took a job the very next day. So I hadn't even gotten my certificate, but it was immediate.
And you mentioned you had been doing some hearings and stuff that didn't need to be certified, or you didn't have to be certified to do it.
Right.
Tell us about that experience, if it was scary or fun or all the
It
above.
was, yeah, it was a little bit of all the above. It was definitely scary, but I used it as a motivator, because hearings honestly aren't as fun as depots and all that. And they're just different. I would say they're harder in some senses. But it was just a motivator, to, this is what I'm going to be doing, so those were really cool. I did some transcribing for lawyers too, that needed, certain interviews transcribed. So I did a lot more of that. I think I only did about 2 hearings. So those were cool. But I knew that I had the potential to make a whole lot more once I was certified, and it just gave me a nice little push to be there. So.
And you just started in January, you told me. So that means you got a couple months in before the pandemic shelter in place was there. What kind of things were you doing then?
So our local courthouse here, I wanted to do both because I really don't know what I'll like more, court or depots. And I think I would be able to do both. So the court actually asked me to sign a contract with them, but I was still freelance 1099. So I worked 3 days in court and 2 days doing depots, sometimes more depots on some weeks. My supervisor was really flexible with me. So she was kind of trying to transition me into court, I think. So she was willing to negotiate days and all that. So I would say I worked more in court than depositions, but depositions were awesome too. I don't know what I like yet more, but I'm loving doing both. So
Have you done any remote work since we've been in the shelter in place?
I have not. No, our county. Humboldt is pretty rural, and so I think they're a little behind on times, but I'd love to because I finished my last, 2 years on Zoom, so I'm pretty familiar with it. But I did in court. I did probably 5 or 6 days of Zoom limited hearings. So it wasn't me at home, but they were filming us in court and the public had access to it. So I did experience that a little, but it's not like you were talking back and forth.
So let's talk about the CSR. You told me it took you 3 times to pass it.
Right.
What do you think, what was your stumbling blocks as far as the first couple of times, and what changed on the third one?
So the first one, my machine had broken on the way to the test.
That's the nightmare.
Oh, one of my DZ key actually broke. So I didn't realize it, and it was my first test. So I didn't take out my machine the night before. I just thought I'd go. I got in really late, so I thought I'd just go in fresh in the morning and start. And then I had discovered that my key was broken. So that threw off my game, and they disqualified me. So that was unfortunate, but I came back the next time, and really, I'll blame myself. I think I could have had a better practice routine. I was kind of just practicing and not taking tests. So once I downloaded a program, EV360, to me analyze my writing. Test taking. So I wasn't just writing, like I was going back, and I think that is really what pushed me over the edge. And actually on test 2, my printer had broken on the plane that time. I was really having horrible luck with that. And I had to skip like the November test, or maybe it was the spring test. I couldn't afford to make it. The plane, it's about 13 hours from here, so, and the plane tickets anyway. So I had geared up, and when I was going to take that July test, I was taking at least 2 tests a week, correcting them, going through all the bells and whistles, and I really think that's what pushed me over the edge. And also, I think the CSR was having some issues with the test writers. That was when the percentages were really low. So I had gotten close on the one where my printer had broken. I think I got like a 94% or something. So I knew I was there, but I needed something to, and I had been out of school for quite some time. So I kind of forgot about taking the tests and doing those things. So that's really what helped me, I think.
And then so you took that test and passed it. Was there any challenges for that test you did pass? Anything during the test, anything surrounding the test?
Just the stipulation of, with the whole low test scores, and everybody was kind of in outrage about that. So I was nervous that the test was going to be very hard and, all that, but all I could do really was prepare as much as I could. And I don't, I wasn't practicing 8 hours a day or anything. It was just about that couple hours of very dedicated and taking those tests. So that was really, I think, the make or break point for me. Yeah.
So now that you're out here, you've been working, you'll go back to working. You're going to be busier than you ever thought once this is over. And what advice would you give to students who are in school now?
I would say, if you have extra time, because I'm not super familiar with my software. I am, and I know how to set up my speakers and all that, but when I started editing these long depositions and court trials and all that, I'm realizing how important it is to know all you can about your software. So because that your editing time, calculates into what you're making an hour, kind of, so you can take a 2-hour deposition, but it could take you 10 hours to, transcribe it. So So that, I would say that's a huge, huge thing, and obviously practicing, because I I would say that I don't think court and depositions are quite as fast as the test, but they can be. Like, there's spurts where, you got to stay on top of it, and they do ask you to read back all the time. So that's, you want to be confident in what you're writing. And so, going through your conflicts and all that is huge. And, kind of cleaning up your dictionary, are huge, because when you're asked to read back in those types of situations, you're a little nervous at first, but you know what you wrote. So I would say those three things would be key in new reporters.
How about, I always like to emphasize to students, and then when they get out to new reporters, how you should be in control of the room, not to be afraid of stopping them. What's your take on that?
I definitely think so. So on my first day in court, the judge was awesome, and the attorneys were, and I was nervous, and the attorneys were speaking over each other, and he could tell, I think, I was uncomfortable, because he couldn't see me, but I had raised my hand a little, and he immediately stopped the courtroom, and he was like, "Listen," and reprimanded them. And so that was cool. And it kind of gave me some confidence. Like, he had told them, if she, feels you guys are talking over each other or anything, she is going to let and he had a talk with me before we had began. So I've done it a couple times now. And they, the first time they kind of look at you like, who are you? But you're the most important person in there. So, that's how you have to hold yourself, because if you respect yourself and you respect that record, they're going to respect you too. So,
They want a clean record too, actually. So
right, they really do. So, and if, attorneys say their names quickly because they're used to saying it all the time. So I had to learn to stop them and ask about that, because that, a couple times they wouldn't give me their card or what have you. And then I found myself in a pickle after that. So I've learned to always, if you don't know who it is, ask. And that's one of the key things too.
So I really appreciate your doing this. I know they're going to be so excited to see a new reporter. But as a last parting kind of comment, give us some advice for maybe students who are just about to give up or who are just stuck. What would you tell them to do?
I will tell them what one of my teachers told me, and it really sank in. You're probably 90% of the way there, 95%. Why would you give up on the last 5%, when it will make your life so much better? It seems so far away, but think about all the things that you've done to get to this point, and to just throw it away just sounds crazy. So
Sure.
that really resonated with me. And I was like, you know what? You're right. You are right.
That is true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very true. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. And I will let you know if the students have any questions, and you can send your answers on the YouTube underneath your, the comment section of your YouTube.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. So thanks so much.
Ah, no problem.